on. Hello. Hey. All right. So my microphone should be working. Lionel, JC, you want to say hi?
Hey, how's everybody doing?
Friday,
Hey,
everyone look, it's
Hey,
Friday.
Steven. Hey, it looks like Alex has joined us. Thank you, everyone who joins us.
Awesome.
Really appreciate this. It's definitely good for the game design team to sit down, talk about a few of these things, and also for me to put them on the spot for them to practice their answers for some of these questions.
That's especially my favorite part.
I enjoy putting you all on the spot quite often.
Yeah,
All right, so.
it's good. No, I was just gonna say it's refreshing.
All right, so what are we talking about this week? This week we're going to be talking about we're going to pick a few of our cards and talk about how the cards evolved from the first pitch to the final version, and what were some of the design processes that happened, some of the conversations we had behind the scenes, some of the conversations we had with you as part of the Future League team. I know that we get those opinions quite often, and we take them very seriously, and especially a lot with what's happening with the Future League team right now. So it's crazy to see the evolution, and I'm excited to see what we talk about. So as always with these live streams, leave a comment, just say hello, join the conversation, and someone's asking, does JC have a giant baked potato in the back?
No, that's actually a snack from earlier. I've not finished yet. But if you're looking for baked potatoes, I can surely hook you up.
It was just random. I look over and I'm like, baked potato? What's happening? I'm so confused. Love it. Before we jump into it, as always, I want to give a huge shout out to our Patreon supporters. So up on screen, you can see that January's Patreon packages, we are giving away the full art borderless subjugation strike. It looks amazing. I always use the same words to describe things. Either things are amazing or phenomenal. I need a new word. But I love subjugation strike. I think it's one of the best uncommons. And welcome to Jaylara. And yeah, it deserves. And then also the other thing I noticed that in all of 2020, there wasn't a single Bellum card that was a Future League promo. So
Wow.
I was like, okay, we got to change that for 2021. So Subjugation Strike kicking it off. So special shout out to Andrew, Gunther, Hill, Steven, Stevo, Nathan, and Will for being our top tier supporters. So you got the Subjugation Strike. You have the foil cores coming out next month. Those are going to be super awesome.
Super cool.
I'm excited for that. And then the other thing I want to announce, let's switch this over back so people can see us. So the other thing I want to announce is that tonight around 7 o'clock, I'm going to be jumping on to do some Future League testing. I'm hoping that the game design team is going to join me. And either you two able
I'll
to
be
join?
there today.
Nice.
I'll be there today for sure.
Yeah. So we're going to be doing some Future League testing. That's going to be really fun. And then, as always, come join us on Discord. I'll throw up a link in the chat here, so you can come join us on Discord to further this conversation. Our next town hall is going to be on January 4th, and we're for the next little while we're going to just be continuing that conversation about Future League. And we are having a tournament happening on Tabletop Simulator, which I'm really excited for. That's happening on the 19th. It's going to be our first time doing a digital tournament. It's going to be a mess. Come join us. It's going to be fun.
I love the confidence. It's going to be a mess.
It's going to be a mess. But
It can't be a dumpster fire, right? It can't be a dumpster fire. It's got to be always better than that.
Also, for the game design team, I don't know if you saw this, but the community is okay if you want to join the tournament. I'm going to be judging, so I won't be joining, but if either of you two want to join the tournament, participate, and see if you can beat the players, because I have my doubts there.
Can I be part of the commentary team?
That'd be really fun.
Yeah, if you want to join me on commentating, that would be a lot of fun. Because I will have to jump back and forth to do the judging thing, but if you can stay on and do the commentating thing, we'll talk logistics afterwards. But I'm excited about that. All right, so let's jump into this week's topic. So I think the team has a few cards that they've decided that they want to talk about pre-hand. We're going to talk about as close to the first pitch idea as possible and how that evolution went about to get to the final form, and some of the pros and cons of this process. I think the game design process is something that's still a bit shrouded in mystery for the community. So if we can shed some light on it and talk about where our decision-making process is coming from, that'd be great. So I'm going to kick it off by starting with Lionel here, talking about Peripheral Visions. I think it's one of the cards that went through a lot of revisions and Rays. So I would love to go from there. So Lionel, start us off. Tell the story.
Sure. So with peripheral visions, I can safely say it was the most difficult one for me, and that was mainly because if you hadn't known, peripheral visions started off with the art. I think it was Layla.
Yep.
Was it Layla that did the art?
Layla.
Yeah, Layla had done the art, a piece for the game, and it was a great piece, so we wanted to use it within the set. So. I took on the piece to design a card that would work with the art. Honestly, it took me a while to come with some ideas, but there was some. Honestly, I don't totally remember the exact or initial ideas because I remember there was about 3 or 4 that I had pitched, and none of them were kind of towards the feel of the card. And then there was the suggestion to try because originally I was trying to go towards the viewpoint of Rain. Do you have the art up? Is it?
Let me throw that up onto the screen.
Yeah. And then I eventually decided that, or there was a suggestion to go towards the viewpoint of Fang. So this idea of seeing Rain and rotating towards her, like you kind of see her in your peripheral visions, and where that version of the card came in. And even then, the card still needed to get changed because the slot that I put it in had it was a bit too strong. So originally, the card was slotted for a 4-chi card. We decided that it would be a you may rotate at swift speed. And that just had too much playability. So there was an iteration that changed it to be 6G after talking about it and playing testing it. So.
All right. Yeah, I remember it starting off as a card in Axon, I think. It was slotted for an Axon card. Or was it Chaos? It was one of the ones.
Yes, you're right. And that's why we were going to the viewpoint of Rain, because it was slotted for Axon. And
then Carl had created a card was slotted to create a card for Bellum, and then it turned out that his card would be better suited in Axon, and then it was, okay, let's swap this around. So I think you had spent nearly a month working on this card by the time the swap happened. And I think one of the things
a bit frustrating.
People don't know about is that I can be pretty difficult when it comes to getting that approval on a card. So I know you came week after week with different ideas, and I was just like, nope, nope, you got to push this a little bit further. So it's finding that right slot, and I think what you came up with in the end was really great. But it was definitely a difficult one.
Yeah.
JC, do you remember anything about working on peripheral visions?
I remember it being at like the 3-chi slot. I'm like, well, this is too easily balances and too easily counters for 3-chi.
Yeah.
I remember actually in the ways of that. I remember Sid bringing up the point that it took away from one of the pain points of the game, which is specifically it made it too easy to mitigate that pain point, which was this positioning. It was too easy to put in this rotation card into the deck because it was such a low chi slot. So I'm really happy that point was made and it was brought up to a higher slot.
All right. Before we jump into the next card, I got some questions here in the chat. So Alex Miller has asked, what is the number one food consumed in Jalara? I know that there is a quote, I think, where they talk about the Rikiu rabbit being eaten. But
Is this coming from the baked potato that looks like it's behind me?
maybe it is.
I think so.
Oh, gosh.
What would your guess be? What do you think is some of the more consumed things? I think it has to be rabbit. Rabbits are just so common in every city in JLara that rabbits are going to be on that list. Birds.
I wouldn't say baked potatoes.
Probably not.
Maybe if you're in Vidhis or something like that. Yeah, maybe.
So potatoes
it
come
really depends on where
from
you
North
are.
America, and that's where it originated from. And the areas where we're based around, you probably wouldn't see potatoes grown there natively. So I'm gonna say no to the baked potatoes. Yeah, it came because of the potato. And then the next thing from Steven, I was looking at Peaceful Demand. Might be interesting on how you came to the two choices it offers. Raise was good and bad in one regard. We, I think, reacted too harshly to what happened at the championship with the Rain OTK. And we tried really, really hard to mitigate it without destroying the OTK. And honestly, I think for a lot of reasons we shouldn't have. But Peaceful Demand came. Peaceful Demand is the card I'm thinking about, right? Where it's the choose
the damage.
Pacify, can't like move, rotate, stuff like that, or you basically drop your hand.
Yeah. And that's what it came down to, was either of those choices would stop the OTK. And then one thing I love to do with these type of artworks is the actual orbs. So Nubia, whenever Nubia has an orb and there's artwork in there, that's always a reference to something. It's never just blindly chose it. So in here, it was very much the idea of Idris either going insane or going blind, and which of her options she wants to choose. There is, in a lot of the flavor text, a lot of the artwork, you see that there is this very strong animosity between Nubia and Idris. And it's interesting. Nubia really hates the casters. Like, Nubia is not... Nubia and Kendra have a lot of frustration. Nubia and Idris have a lot of frustration. And so this piece, I think, it came from that. It was the... us trying to think about what was a clever way of dealing with the Rain OTK, and looking back on it, I think we could have used that design space for something better. But that's a personal thing. I don't think I've even expressed that with the game design team yet, so that might be new content for them. All right, let's jump over to the next thing. JC, you want to talk about Lightless?
Oh, Lightless. Where should we start with him? I'm sure only one person besides the game design team know this. At one point, we were looking at putting Desperation onto summons and that. So originally, Lion Main Rabbit had it, and I think Lightless was the other one, if I'm correct.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
Mm-hmm.
So Lightless originally, one of the original ideas pitched was him being at its health, him having an attack of 5, and then turning around, like if he was at Desperation, he could swing like a champ at 10.
Oh, yeah.
You remember
ridiculous.
that?
Yeah.
So that was one of the ideas that was just like, well, what's the worst case scenario? To hit Desperation. On my side, I think it was Desperation on a summon's hard to get into. Even if you're trying to control it, to get to that 1 health would be difficult. And then if you're hitting that point in the game, hit like a champ. So that was the original idea. Then we started gearing towards more of I think we started going towards more of an angel killer or something to deal with the angel. So he then went into more of I think it was 5 attack, and then he had a Desperation attack sits that basically said, hey, no, his Desperation range attack sits so that he could take on an angel if he was at Desperation. So then kind of mitigating that and kind of made it difficult to get into that Desperation, so he ended up finally hitting a range attack of sits on his own naturally, and then moving into that attack resistance that just makes him a beast.
Yeah.
And also, on top of that, we also gave, like, I remember helping, like, giving suggestions for it, and I suggested giving an attack resistance because the angel hit. for 6, and he had 6 health. So if the angel faced off against the lightness and hits it, then it'll be 1 health, and then it'll be able to respond by killing and kill the angel and respond. So
yeah,
that was my thoughts process too.
Yeah, that was definitely an interesting card, and I think where it sits right now is pretty solid. I know that in current meta, angels are really powerful. There's no denying that, but there are options to deal with them. I just don't think a lot of people are exploring those options, or haven't seen it. Like, I think an Idris deck would do really well against the angel deck, and I don't know. I just don't see a lot of people play Idris these days. It's just not happening as often.
I also feel like people have their favorites too. When it comes to champions.
Yeah.
I think once tournaments start again, and that's where this tournament on the 19th is going to be really exciting. Once they start happening more and more, people are going to have to explore into new types of meta to deal with either what's really strong or lean into what's really strong. So it's going to be interesting to see what decks come out on the 19th. So I'm going to go a little bit old school with my card, which is Draco's Cavern. So Draco's Cavern, a lot of people, if you're part of Future League back in those days, you know that Draco's Cavern started off with whenever a summon is beckoned onto Draco's Cavern, they lose 1 health, and you remove the Exert tokens off of it. And this card was insane in those days because you'd be able to drop an angel onto that for turn 1, drop Draco's Cavern, drop Stone Protector of Nigh, drop the Angel of Retribution, and then just teleport over to the other side of the field and start hitting them. And it became really, really ridiculous. This is in part why we were so conservative when designing Odara, because we saw what Draco's Cavern could do, and we had the same feeling that Odara would cause the same pain points in the game. Odara didn't, and removing the Exert tokens wasn't as bad for Odara, but with Draco's Cavern it was crazy because you could drop so many summons onto the same spot and have them all come out with Blitz, basically, very, very early on. And then it got changed to
a lot less controlled.
Yeah. It got changed to its new format where anything on it, if they attack, they deal an additional 1 damage, which I thought would be more useful, and we just don't see it played at all. So, yeah, that's an interesting...
And can I say that this whole Draco's Cavern thing was in the same time where Stone Protector of Nigh could take the whole party with them and just go over to a team?
Yeah.
Stone Protector. Yeah, it was the truest of TARDISes.
It was definitely bigger.
Yeah.
On the inside.
Yeah.
Also, when we're talking about Draco's Cavern, wasn't that another one of those where we had the art first? If I remember correctly?
No. So, Draco's Cavern, there was no pieces in Welcome to JLR, or very, very few. There were a few pieces that were someone's trial artwork, and then we made a card for it. But there weren't many of them. So one example of that was Leap. Leap was a trial piece that was created by Mario, and it was like, okay, what are we going to use this for? And then we went with a Leap, and that worked out perfectly well. But, and then Draco's Cavern, it was a trial piece that someone did that we shoehorned into that piece. I don't think, if I were to commission that piece, I don't think I would have gone that approach. But it was kind of nice to have the Draco's Cavern have Fong on it, and then the Firehill have Long on it, because it created that yin and yang type of feeling again. But yeah, that's that was Draco's Cavern. Lionel, talk about Yamaraja.
Yamaraja. Yeah, it was actually quite interesting because I wasn't sure how to approach designing it. If I'm being honest with you, I don't remember what my initial ideas were, but I remember we decided to take the approach of doing more of a group design with this, and taking the top-down approach where we have starting with what I wanted the creature to be from flavor standpoint, and then deciding what the idea for the mechanics from there. So we ended up coming upon inspiration from the Frankenstein creature rather. So I know Frankenstein, obviously from the story, Frankenstein.
Yeah.
Frankenstein was the scientist, but the monster that he created was the inspiration. And it was the idea of having this creature that would continuously learn, because the monster ended up becoming really intelligent and continuously learning. So the idea of this whole knowledge assimilation came from there.
Yeah.
And I'll hats off to Asid, because he definitely helped me a lot in this design, and JC was a big part of that as well. But we came upon this idea of knowledge assimilation. I think originally I wanted this creature to be a resurrect creature that, when it came into play, it had death touch to everything around it, and it just got too convoluted. Yeah, I'm remembering that. Too complex and too strong, and there was no real way to balance it. So we ended up being never mind, now that I'm thinking back, it was a creature that, when it came into play, it exerted everything, as like I had that idea as well. Anyways, I'm kind of bantering, but I'm really liking the way that we ended up going with it now, with the whole knowledge simulation, because it really created a interesting feel to it, and definitely how I wanted the creature to feel.
I remember a big part of it was originally it sorry, what am I thinking? Originally it was a quick beckon and had death touch, and that was absurd. It was just way too powerful at that point. And then it went over to the regular beckon, and then the idea of not giving it a built-in attack and giving it the death touch instead was a very clever design decision. Yeah,
for sure.
I actually had forgotten about the Frankenstein bit of that, but that's true. I remember it was based off of the Frankenstein monster. And so that was definitely a really, really cool idea.
Not too often do I get to I start strictly from the top end approach, and that was pretty cool.
Yeah,
being able to do that.
Cool. JC, you didn't actually tell me about a second card. Is there a second card in mind that you want to talk about?
I don't know. I'm just looking at my whole on cut sheet here. It's like, which ones have I actually changed mid process?
Well, while you're looking at that, I want to talk a little bit more about Ramaraja now that you put the art up on the screen. But I remember I really wanted it again to be kind of this opposing creature to the angel. So the idea of when it took down an angel, he took its weapons. I think it was really, really cool when we were commissioning this piece. So
yeah, nice.
So I'll throw a quick one out here for myself. Ascendant Teachings. That was an interesting one. So maybe the wrong thinking on my end on when I initially started creating it was, I still think a toolbox of techniques in that it will be a deck one day. And this was the first piece out. I'm like, maybe this is something that we can maybe, I'll use the term archetype into, is using many techniques to be your victory condition or to set your way to victory. And Ascendant Teachings really kind of, I think it started off with something like either sacrificing a technique to find another technique, and I believe it was attach it to yourself was one of the original concepts of it. Upon looking at it as well, we could throw on something as weak as a Fire Imbue, and that Fire Imbue now, even though it's a 2-card combo, turns into a Rakier's Precision or something like that, something that was kind of a little more out of hand. And then we started to mold it towards more of binding it in certain ways. So you'll see now the final versions kind of started out as now is, hey, if I have a technique attached to me and I have another copy of that in my hand, I can go play the Ascendant Teachings, discarding a card of the same name to go find something at the same chi level practically. I'm pretty sure that's what it says. Yeah. So it went from being very unrestricted of what it could do into being very restricted of what it can do. I know we had even talked about having it search for any card type of a chi level as well. So at one point it's hey, we can go find a spell that same chi or something like that. And same thing, it just bounds far too much to
I still personally believe that if I were to redesign this card, I would make it grab any card type and say of that chi or less. That's just my personal belief.
Hey, I remember the conversation being around this card was to give fighters an edge. And that was a big part of the reason why I was conceptually trying designed. And I think a part of the reason why we didn't do that was because it wasn't just giving fighter strength; it gave any summon, any champion strength. But that's my.
It really binds it binds more of what you can do in that.
Yeah.
With it being X or less, you can go that route, but then it becomes more unbounded. There's too many possibilities, and it rewards someone if they just want to build I don't want to say a sloppy deck, but it allows them to toolbox far too easily over what it is now. So I can go and find anything I need of that chi value. Really, Rapier's position can turn into anything 7 chi or less. It just becomes somewhere between insane and crazy. You now have a card that can get you your option that you need at all times, with probably very little investment.
Yeah.
Really comes down to what enchantment you're using at that point.
Yeah.
But yeah.
No. I think the card's good where it is. I think just the card pool is too limited. And it's one of the things that I've been spending a lot of time more recently kind of analyzing the card pool, what's out there, what's good, what's competitive, and all those type of things. And I think that's one of the big challenges is that this card, when it's set up properly, when the card pool gets stronger, it's going to be a great card. But as of right now, it definitely falls to the wayside a little bit. But hold on to them. Hold on to your copies because there'll come a day where you'll want to have those again.
Yeah.
So just to cap things off, my last card, Underworld Knowledge. And this is something that actually predates the game design team because this happened during alpha. So let me throw that up on screen. Underworld Knowledge.
Real old school.
Yep. Really, really old school. Talking Underworld Knowledge being one of the earliest cards designed in the game. It was originally action, cast 1 health, draw a card. And this was part of the reason why I want to talk about this is this was the first time in my design experience where I saw someone take advantage of a card way beyond what I was expecting them to do. So they basically proved that with Underworld Knowledge is you no longer had 3 chi cards in the deck. Because you could run a deck of 25 7 chis and 25 Underworld Knowledges. And every time you draw an Underworld Knowledge, you just keep on fishing until you hit another 7 chi. So your deck was essentially just 25 7 chis. You just had less starting health than what you originally thought. And this was the first time where I had to understand that the way Genesis works is different than other games. And it seems like a really silly thing to say, but it's one of those things that I'm learning more and more is that my years of playing Magic, Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, and many other card games, and my years of playing Warhammer and video games like Final Fantasy VII or Final Fantasy Tactics, a lot of those things applied, but none of them had a one-to-one mapping to what we were doing in Genesis. And that's where the exert cost came in because it realized things had to work differently in Genesis than they did in other games. So Underworld Knowledge is the card that it didn't change too much in design, but it changed enough that it changed my perception of how design works for the game. So that's a pretty big thing.
That's cool.
It kind of goes back to my theory that if you have a problem with a card, throw exert on it.
yeah, I remember you did that a lot.
Yeah.
That person that helped you realize that, was that Wasim?
It was Wasim. It was 100%. Like in those days, so pre-alpha, how many people were really playing the game? This is before you even started playing Genesis, right? True. It was really just was me and Wasim playtesting most of the game. I'm gonna throw up the full artwork of Underworld Knowledge from Raze because I don't think that's an artwork that many people get to see. It's a gorgeous piece. Layla did a phenomenal job, and it tells a lot more about this story arc that we're developing with Idris. So that's actually one of those pieces that if she still had it, I would ask to buy that canvas. It looks so nice. Yeah. So that's those are my cards. Any last thoughts from the team?
kind of that you didn't mention Hydroblast, but
I was thinking about it, but I've talked about that card to death. I feel like I've mentioned it so many times. But the transition from Hydroblast to Goss, or from Blink Shards to Temporal Relocation, anything like that, I've mentioned them a lot. So if you want to hear about those, just look up past videos. I've mentioned it enough. Yeah.
But in the ways of final thoughts, I just want to say I'm really glad to have people, like a team, to actually bring ideas and like kind of talk about them.
Yeah.
Because it definitely makes things a lot nicer to be able to talk to somebody instead of just designing in your own head.
That's true. And I 100% agree with that. I think that you have to have different layers, and one of it's very important having the game design team as one layer who's very narrow scoped, having the Future League team as another layer which is a little bit more broader. It does give a lot of contrasting ideas, and we've seen in times where we miss one piece or the other that card design isn't as strong as we would like it to be. So I like what we've done as a game design team, and I really I'm excited to see what the next few weeks have in store for us. For many people who don't know this, but even though we've been maintaining the Friday live streams, as a game design team, we've gone on a bit of a hiatus during COVID. And that was purely due to the fact that COVID just kind of messed up the world, and everyone had to take some time to deal with the personal lives, me included. So we took a bit of... So now that things are kind of leveling off, I would say, we're gonna start coming back to it. So if you're part of Future League, get excited. This is the time to get really excited, because the game design team is going to be pumping out a lot of amazing content soon to get things just tested and rolling. So I'm hyped for this. I'm very hyped for this.
Me too.
All right, just to wrap a few things up, don't forget Exploring the Library on Tuesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern. We have our next conversation is going to be on Forethought. Alex and I are going to talk about it. I'm going to hear from his perspective of everything he hates about it, and I'm going to explain everything I hate about it, but then we're going to talk about the things we like about it and why I think it's a good starting point to the conversation. I know a lot of people don't believe that our the way we address sideboarding and using forethoughts is the right approach, and believe me when I say we haven't really hammered in the process. There's a lot of room for improvement, so we're going to be having that conversation. If you want to be part of that, join us Tuesday night. And don't forget that the chapters are coming out for the Akasha Codex. Foresight of the Ancients, chapter 1, was released this past Monday, I believe, or was it last Monday? I think it was on the 7th. So that and then so coming up soon, we'll have the second chapter released. I'm really excited for these chapters. Since I'm writing them, I can say they get better. And then
Sean.
Pardon? Sorry. Hey, Sean.
Sean just joined us.
So, and then the other... yes. The other thing I want to mention is... have people been enjoying watching the pack openings? I've been enjoying putting them together. Have you two ever seen any of these pack openings I do?
I've seen that double pillar one.
Yeah, that was a cool one. I was super psyched about that. I mean, like, if I opened that personally, I'd been like, yeah, this is a good pack.
Like, I still have this here that needs to get open one day.
So I didn't do one yesterday because I was feeling a bit under the weather. So I did one today. And I'll say today we did not get the epic, but something epic is happening, which means that pool number 3 is going to be the largest pool to date. It's going to be at least 7 packs. So subscribe to our YouTube channel, show us a lot of love, and give us, what do you call it? Good luck so that we hit the epic in the next pack, right? Because this is a good pool to be part of. JC, COVID?
Oh boy. So COVID is a real thing out there. As a reminder, our favorite local game stores, they are our front liners. So make sure that when you are shopping with them, you respect the rules they put out for their stores. If they're asking you to use hand sanitizer when you come in, reduce the touching of product, follow certain directions in the stores. Please, you don't have to fight. Just please follow their guidance. We're all in this together. If your local game store, I know out Toronto way, some of them might not be open with the lockdown. Give them a call, send them a message on Facebook. They are still there, getting you your games that you like. Some of them are offering deliveries. Some of them are also doing curbside pickup. Please, again, we're all in this together. Just be safe.
Yeah.
Be a decent person.
Yeah.
Respect everyone, and we'll get our hobbies.
And I a lot of light at the end of the tunnel with the vaccines. That does not mean this is the time to ease up on our current plans, because we are seeing the worst numbers now than we have ever seen for COVID. They are not getting better. So just because the vaccine's coming soon, it does not mean we're in the clear right now. Again, reminder, Town Hall happening on January 4th, just a few days after the New Year's. I'm excited for the year to switch over, and we'll be continuing to chat about Future League. And then Tabletop Simulator tonight, 7 p.m. I'll probably be running a little bit, doing it for a little bit longer just because it's a Friday. Let's play some games. It's going to be so much fun. And then if you have topics you want to see us cover in upcoming game designer chats, I love doing these. I love it when the team comes and participates. So if you have something you want to talk about or you want us to talk about, let me know. Or if you want to come and host the conversation, ask us the questions, let us know, and we will arrange that. So I think that's everything for this week. Steven, I'm happy that you're enjoying the pack openings. And yeah, I was trying to switch to Welcome to JLR for the pack openings, but everyone wanted more rays, so I'm doing more rays. So yeah, that's everything for this week. Team, thank you for joining me, and everyone who's watching online, thank you for joining us this week.
Is it a potato?
All right, have a good one.
See ya.